So Rocket Fund is a company founded by myself, right? I spent over 10 years at Salesforce. You might consider me to be a veteran. And the entire company is sort of shamelessly engineered to work with Salesforce technology, Salesforce employees, customers, and partners, right? And I'm a staunch believer in the power of the Ohana, of what it represents and the goodness that it brings. So, when we thought about raising our seed round, we had all the usual options in front of us. So, there were numerous early stage funds vying for our attention. We had venture capital organizations speaking to us. I mean, money was readily available. There was just no shortage of it. But something really nagged at me, and I actually, I wasn't entirely at ease with the sort of conjugal nature of some of the funding proposals. I did expect to relinquish some control, if not over the running of the company, then certainly over the decisions around financial structure and ownership. And I was okay with this, and I expect to be joined at the hip for many years with these investors. But it didn't feel right to me. It felt very exclusive. And so I was thinking about this late one night, and I did some cursory research on the most successful companies inside the Salesforce ecosystem. So these names that you may have heard, Viva was built on $7 million worth of VC funding with just one VC involved, and that was Emergence Capital. Viva went on to IPO, valuation of around $2.5 billion. And I think the most recent valuation is around $44 billion. So I can't speak to the inner workings of that company. But I would suspect that the main beneficiaries of that IPO, were the founders and Emergence Capital. Then there's Encino, $5.5 billion valuation, investment by T. Rowe Price and Salesforce Ventures. And then was Velocity, acquired by Salesforce for around $1.3 billion, investment led by Salesforce Ventures and Sutter Hill. Then there was Zuora, $1.83 billion valuation, Blackboard, $2.7 billion valuation, and then a whole string of others. So there was definitely a common thread across these companies in that the ownership structure for all these highly successful Salesforce ecosystem companies were heavily skewed towards a very small number of well-endowed VCs and, of course, the founders. And I realized what was nagging at me. So there's nothing inherently wrong with the coming together of strong founders and great VCs, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But to me, this isn't, or it wasn't, Ohana. It is absolutely the case that entire economies can blossom from that great coupling of founders and good VCs, and that's absolutely fine. But as someone who is in the Ohana, and for someone who's seen the power of the Ohana, I just feel like there's this vast emptiness of an opportunity being squandered. And you can't hold these companies accountable for this, right? Because, they're probably ignorant to the power of the Ohana, or maybe they just disregarded it because, for the spoils that they see before them. And this is, in fact, the very first time a company has sought to be owned by the Ohana without going to an IPO, but which, by the way, bypasses the Ohana altogether and gives ownership dips to the whole world, right? So the one thing I do want to point out at this stage is that, I do want every member to be an owner, but there was a limited level of funding that we want to raise, or that we even should raise, and that's against a fair market valuation. It makes it impossible for every member of the Ohana to be an owner of Rocket Phone. So you need to act really quickly and just get on this horse. So I can't promise that everyone in the Ohana is going to get shares in this round, but I can absolutely assure you that there are no closed doors or backroom private deals happening with VCs or institutions. I don't doubt that at some future point in time that we'll need institutional support, maybe to, in subsequent funding round to help us scale and grow the business faster. But by then, the Ohana will have taken its rightful place in our cap table.